Today it's time to dive deep into Activision Blizzard. Not only are their quarterly earnings out, but we can also see just a little bit more of what is going on with the Diablo Immortal situation to learn how it has actually impacted the company and overall what they are doing. Today it's actually pretty damn fascinating stuff, but a lot of numbers are surprisingly down, actually. This is almost underperformed what I would have expected. Now, they've talked about, of course, their acquisitions of Proletariat and Peltarian, who are an AI company. They've talked about the challenging environment. The other interesting fact, the development headcount of the company has grew 25% year over year, and of course they've highlighted their pending sale to Microsoft. But what's really going on, right? That's what we want to know. We want to dive deep into the company. And to give you a tease, well, revenue is down. It's down 28%. Net bookings are down 15%, and net income is down a whopping 68%, meaning that, yep, the amount of money that's coming in is getting a lot closer to the amount of money that is being spent. But I can tell you what's not down. Brilliant. They're the best way you can improve your life, improve your prospects, develop yourself, and especially too in some lucrative fields, all of course via their fantastic site and app, and the first 200 to click my link will get 20% off. Now, Brilliant are just awesome. So compared to how I learned computer science in uni, their approach of interactive quizzes is just so much more approachable. It is fun. You are learning by doing. Here's a neat example. I never learned Python, right? I was doing C++ stuff. So in my spare time, I've been slowly just making my way through what they have for Python. And it's been really interesting just seeing how they teach things that are obviously around concepts I'm already pretty familiar with, and comparing that to how I was taught. Right? The old-fashioned way. This is actually intuitive and fun, and by having the code in browser, they ensure there's no setup-related issues getting in your way. It's an awesome starting point. It's so refreshing. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got so many gaps in my knowledge, right? I feel like I've fallen off the wagon, you know? Just too busy to develop myself, to keep on learning. But lifelong learning is important, and I really regret not doing it. And Brilliant has me learning again. With their approach, the thing is, you don't just sit there and sponge in facts and figures. No, you actually have topics click. You know, when it clicks in your brain and that feels good. So if you're thinking about your career, well, I'd say they're the best way to actually just get started in some of those high-paying fields like AI and computer science, rather than a boring old textbook. So I love what they do, and whether you want to learn for yourself or perhaps spark the journey of a younger mind, you can visit brilliant.org/Bellular News today. And the first 200 to click my link will get 20% off their annual subscription. So there you go, Brilliant. Honestly, awesome company on an awesome mission. Check them out down below. Let's get back to the news. Welcome back. So those numbers, they do look pretty rough. And unfortunately, the trend does continue for them, with monthly active users continuing to slide. So 1 year ago, we were at 408 million MAUs, then 390, then 371, then 372, and then 361. Okay, so monthly active users have been going down. However, for Blizzard Entertainment, well, we can see that they were 26 million, they dropped to a low of 22, and now they are back up to 27 million monthly active users. Of course, though, with Diablo Immortal releasing at the start of June, or in and around the start of June, I think quite a few of us would have expected that number to go up just a little bit more. And when we try to look at the losses, we can see that Activision have went down considerably, right, from 127 to 94 year over year. Of course, it's pretty rough for Activision. They've had a lot of issues with the Call of Duty product, right? Blizzard, then, they're up 1 million from last year. King, though, are actually down 15 million.
Yeah, that's like a pretty strong kind of across the board loss. It's not like one is particularly feeling any harder than the others, but Activision, that's bad. That just goes to show like the kind of tail that Vanguard had just didn't exist. Because that's the kind of, you would imagine that because, well, I don't know super well how Warzone's doing. Probably not that well comparatively to its peers in terms of content stuff, with Apex continuing to absolutely destroy seemingly everyone on that front. It seems that Warzone has a problem because they're getting ready for their Warzone 2. Then you've got like Vanguard not really doing that well. It's hard to, and they have nothing else. They've got Call of Duty. That's really about it. So you can see it. That's like you can see why they were scared. a couple months ago that, oh shit, we've actually kind of lost the tail on this product. Shit, we need to get it back with our big thing. But then looking at Blizzard, thinking, like, it depends on how they measure MAUs, right?
Yeah.
Because of course they measure MAUs in, I'm going to say as cynically a way as possible, right? Where it is, if you play Hearthstone and World of Warcraft, you're 2 MAUs.
Yes.
Which is, that's fine. Blizzard go, oh yeah, so, one Blizzard fan can be like 6 people, basically, if you play across the raft of things.
And that's not something that they hide. That's, that is disclosed. That's how it is. Yeah. Standard measurement.
Yeah, it's fully disclosed, but it gives you a slightly wrong picture of how many people are playing. But it does actually track how much people are engaging with Blizzard products. But then you look at a 5 million jump for Diablo Immortal. That has 10 million installs. I don't know how you figure that one, to be honest. Because there's something a little bit weird in the MAU reporting or something there. But at the same time, the only possibility there is that they dropped 5 million MAUs. That then, had the 10 bump. So the real one without Immortal 17. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
But so that's it. Basically, I thought this number was going to be 40, 50. Because that's what I thought Diablo Immortal was going to do. I thought that was what it was for. But that's just not happened.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you look at Call of Duty, right? And, Call of Duty moves from 36 million in one quarter to 128 million the next. And that's, a combo of Warzone and also Call of Duty Mobile, which we knew was a success. Now, I'm going to skip over Activision. We'll come back to them. I think Blizzard is maybe the one that's perhaps the most, burning interest. Mm-hmm. So when we go down to the products, right, they say that World of Warcraft bookings have declined versus a quarter a year ago, but that is a quarter that included the Burning Crusade Classic, and they say that decline offsetted year-over-year growth for Hearthstone and the contribution from the June launch of Diablo Immortal. So that really shows you how massive World of Warcraft is for Blizzard's business, right? Because they have Immortal come out, they have Hearthstone do better, Overwatch, we're obviously still not thinking about that much because Overwatch 2 will be coming into play soon. So even with that, Warcraft having a decline just hurts them.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing with Burning Crusade Classic and the launch where they included the Dark Portal Pass. That was, the $60, I think, level boost, which was very much like hey, this isn't a box product because Classic, or the next expansion of Burning Crusade Classic is included in your Classic subscription. But for people who wanted to play TBC who weren't interested in vanilla or weren't interested or even didn't play very much and wanted to boost to get to the content, it was effectively a full box sale. And that's the one thing that I think people kind of miss out on because they don't sell it like a box. Which really interestingly you can kind of compare to Overwatch 2 in a way, where they were selling that as a box, and now they're selling beta access as like a founders pack thing, so you can kind of see the same thing going on there. But it is interesting that, again, Diablo Immortal mustn't have been to the substantial launch that they expected or hoped for. Obviously the delay in the China launch was going to impact that, and it was very, very late, it was pretty late in the quarter overall. But it's still the fact that that's down, it must just be their entire portfolio is so much down that even launches can't really keep it up. And then I guess so much of that is because Burning Crusade Classic is super, super big in China and continues to be, which is very, it seems like, I think there's substantially more Chinese activity on Classic than there is in the West.
Yeah, I don't know comparatively, but at least we are fairly sure, people looking at the parses, in Warcraft logs and stuff like that, Burning Crusade Classic is massive there.
It's almost, I'd love to see a breakdown of how much of the revenue comes from where, because I imagine a substantial amount of it is now China more so than ever before.
Yeah, and of course, I think Blizzard are going to be earning less money from one user in China versus one user here. Because obviously, that in China it's operated by NetEase, so there's just, there's more links in the chain, each getting their cut of the profits. So it's overall a fairly interesting situation. Now, they did call out that over half of the Diablo Immortal accounts are actually new to Blizzard, so whenever Blizzard said, hopefully this will bring new heroes to Sanctuary, they absolutely were correct. So overall then, the picture for Blizzard is interesting. We'll dive into Immortal in just a little bit because there is some more public info that we know. As for Activision then, it is essentially what you would expect with those declines reflecting lower engagement in Call of Duty. Let's say it's growth versus the first quarter. Look, pretty simple situation there, right? We're going to see the new Call of Duty, which is in the Modern Warfare franchise, and also Warzone 2. Those are basically going to rescue those numbers, I think. So not a massive amount to worry about, other than that this shows that whenever it declines, it stings.
Yeah, that's the thing where they will come back out of this, but it's like depends on will they learn the lesson and not repeat the mistake again, or like because basically how many Modern Warfares can you make that people will still be interested in? That's the thing. Where I feel like if they went Modern Warfare 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, people would very quickly get tired of that. So they almost like they have a limited use ticket back to the heights of Call of Duty at its finest. And they're gonna have to run out. They're gonna run out of that sooner rather than later. Yeah. And they need to build a strategy for. People only want Modern Warfare. What do we do about this, please? Please, could someone get Vince Zampella back, please?
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And the other side too is that this year, especially Warzone and the like main paid COD, they were pretty damn linked, right? You had the whole like dual skins and stuff like that. And you know, if that happens with Modern Warfare, that'll be very successful. If that then happens with the Call of Duty, that is a less popular entry,
Vanguard 2,
then that like something that's basically a rerun of the Call of Duty Ghost situation, then that's going to be rough. And then as for King, well, basically they say that, and I'll do King quickly. Don't worry, I know we probably have the same opinion in this, you and I. So their segment revenue and operating income grew year over year, driven by Candy Crush. Wahoo!
Wait, people are playing Candy Crush and giving the money hand over fist? Wow.
And here's what's crazy, right? We talk about all these games that we care about. Sometimes we talk about FIFA Ultimate Team and how that's like a really massive part of the revenue of Electronic Arts. Well, did you know that more than 50% of the revenue of Activision Blizzard King came from mobile and ancillary costs this year?
Color me surprised.
So, Immortal then. Is that not the thing? Did we not all think like, oh, Immortal, it's going to get so many million monthly active users, it's going to be a rerun of the COD Mobile situation? We certainly were thinking some of that. So it's all kind of bizarre. Now, Diablo Immortal earned $100 million in 8 weeks, according to Sensor Tower. And that's, of course, only counting a few days of Chinese or, Southeast Asian revenue, right?
Yeah, I think it is basically, I think that would be 5 or 6 days because it launched on July 25th in China and South Asia. Yeah. Which is unfortunate. I had personally hoped for a longer delay, but that's just me being vindictive, I think.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Now, here's Sensor Tower doing their weeks to 100 million. Now, of course, these are not like official revenue numbers. This is just Sensor Tower's methodology, but they will, of course, be applying the same methodology to all of these games. So we can see that nobody's really beating Pokemon Go, which does make sense given how that was a whole worldwide phenomenon. But it's ahead of Fire Emblem Heroes. It's ahead of Fortnite. It's ahead of Final Fantasy 15 New Empire. So it's ahead of a bunch of pretty damn big games. Yeah. That's showing us that if you tie player power into the equation this much,
I will put a little bit of a caveat into that, because I may be completely incorrect here, but I think I remember Fire Emblem Heroes having a fairly weak start comparatively.
Okay.
But like in terms of overall as a game, maybe it had a lot of interest because it was a Fire Emblem game, and it was still. So I'm not completely sure about that, but it's still. I imagine that's not as strong as I'd have liked. But then if it had released in China earlier, that probably would have been 3 or 4 weeks.
Worth noting, this is not including third-party Android stores in China or other regions.
Yeah,
there could be still some more left on the table. Mm-hmm. But basically, it's overall doing pretty good. It's definitely no Genshin Impact.
I mean, of course, nothing is really. Nothing is. That's one of those things you almost like Lucifer to the sun or Venus to the sun. You can try to get up there, but you aren't. Yeah, it's a complete lightning in a bottle situation there. So even, it's doing fine. It's got 30 million players by 30th July, and that's pretty explosive considering it was 10 million not long after launch, and then 30 because of the Chinese launch. Again, that's probably more interest in China than here. Well, you kind of think that's obvious when you think it's Diablo on mobile and how Western gaming looks at mobile comparatively.
Yeah,
and also it certainly, I imagine very, very little of the negative press and stuff that it got over here would have impacted it in China. Whereas I would like to hope some of the bad stuff that people were reporting on actually did sort of hold Western players off from playing it.
So Blizzard said 10 million of the 21st of June. Right? So I don't know what that means. Maybe 15 million by the end of June, or 14, 13 million, something like that. Installs of the game. Now I have to imagine if somebody's installed on PC, like if they've installed on PC and mobile, does that count as 2 installs, but only 1 monthly active user because it's the same product with cross-platform? That's maybe one of the ways that we could square the numbers that fall within Q2 with what we actually saw of Blizzard's monthly active users.
Maybe.
But I think then when we see this 30 million by the end of July, of course, that's the very start of Q3 of this year. So we're only going to truly see the impact of this game by that stage, right? And that means I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Blizzard MAUs being like 20 million higher than they are right now, maybe 30 million, as all of these Chinese users start to come online and actually contribute to that MAU number.
Now that is assuming that these Chinese players do play it this month and then next month and then the month after. Because you can't, 1 month of the quarter is going to skew your numbers a little bit if it's a massive, like, super high peak versus being averaged out over the months. But given the... how do I put this? Given the way the game is paced, so you only hit the wall after a little while, if you're playing a little bit more casually, like, I can't imagine these, like, all of these 30 million will be 8 hours a day. I imagine at least a few will be the seemingly intended, pacing-wise, 1 hour, 2 hours a day, maybe half an hour on the bus, stuff like that. So there's a decent enough of a long tail, I think, in that kind of casual experience that we will kind of... Unfortunately, the loss of Blizzard's MAUs is a meaningful number to us on the Warcraft side is probably Q3. I did expect Q2, but Q3.
Yeah. Now, as we kind of go on to the Chinese launch, essentially Sensor Tower, from what they can see, are basically saying it's doing well. Right? It's doing well in China. On launch day, it ranked pretty damn high. It was number 3 and the top grossing games on the marketplace. And on July 26th, it ranked number 2. And at that point, it's above PUBG Mobile. And right now, it's actually above Honor of Kings. And it's at number 1. Just again, remember how ginormous that region is. Right? And action RPGs, big in that region. Mobile ones, also big in that region. Right? Now, that said, does not mean that people are impressed. There's been a few issues, obviously server queues, that kind of thing. Here's a nice little quote. NetEase and Blizzard are crazy for charging 16 yuan for 1 gem to duplicate a key. There's just, one little thing. And this is from somebody who said they've spent over 100 yuan within 3 hours of the game's launch. Didn't feel particularly happy about it. Apparently, most other games offer free key duplications. Some of the phrases are along the lines of, it's hard to maintain buzz. I've already reached the ceiling in the time I've played since launch. Somebody who really liked Diablo 2 was interviewed, said, primitive copycat, did not live up to expectations. So basically... we're seeing a mix of everything, right? I imagine that a lot of the more vocal people are probably going to be similar enough to what we're saying in the West. After all, there are, I think it was actually NetEase's ARPG. I forget its name exactly, and this is like about 2 or 3 years ago. But it did face quite a backlash from its Chinese users who basically realized, hey, this is all pay to play. I can't grind this. I can't do this normally. I'm just trying to beat the other guy by spending more. And that's something that is more normalized in that market, but it still, of course, does piss them off.
Yeah, well, I think this is where something I think we were saying a little bit before it launched kind of comes into the whole point. Where if you see people here who are, they're influencers who are in the Diablo scene. They're people who are fans of Diablo 2 back in the day. And they're like, this isn't for me. It looks like it is on the surface, but it actually isn't. And I think that's where you go, well, what's their goal with this, right? And what's their actual goal, not what's their goal that they would say on stage at BlizzCon or in an interview, which is always, hey, we're going to make a Diablo on mobile. It's just like Diablo, but it's on mobile. But that's clearly not their plan. Because, especially if you look at Warcraft Arclight Rumble, you can see their plans pretty upfront. They want to go for, well, okay, we're Blizzard. We're part of Activision Blizzard King. Activision's making a lot of money, but they have 40 million developers and an unbeatable brand. And they put a lot of effort in. And sometimes they still fail. And King's still making more money. So you got Activision over here. Basically, you've got like a talent choice or a class tree choice if you're Blizzard and you're looking at mobile. And it's like, do you go the Activision route of try to do what Activision does? Or do you go the King route? And King is clearly the meta build for mobile gaming. If you're talking money first, you clearly just go and do the King thing. You go, well, can we turn our brand into a Candy Crush? And what's the target audience of Candy Crush? Fucking everyone on the planet with a phone. Not gamers. People who will sit down with a phone and the bing bing wahoo will take over. And Diablo, of course, is positioned a little bit towards gamers who are like that, or more like people who are like that with a subclass of fantasy and action, as opposed to subclass of suburban mother who plays the, Peggle or Candy Crush, whatever. And that's kind of the whole plan. It's like you can see that with NetEase as well, where it's very much sort of going, we don't have to fight fair. We don't have to make reasonable games that you'll enjoy and play.
Well,
We'll just make the Candy Crush equivalent, or, the Farmville back in the day is the old one, which seems antiquated now, to be honest. But I think that's always been the plan. It's just, can you do the King, but for the different market to King, a slightly different one?
yeah, well, do you remember all the headlines? Gamers are dead. They don't have to be your audience anymore. Now, obviously, I am calling up, a bit of a dramatic situation back there from 2013 or 14, wherever it was.
14.
But
remember it well.
the feeling of that is maybe coming through now in some slices of the market, not to be too inflammatory about it, of course, is, gamers don't have to be your audience when you then look at how good Candy Crush does. Now, that being said, gamers still are going to spend a lot, right? Because we're actually the people who have that long-term passion in this hobby.
Yeah, that's where you
right?
get the wheels and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, because you're never, let's just say you have Warhammer. Like, you're never going to make that not for people who are interested in, like, minis and the books and the world building. And you can still make a fuckload of money from that, as Games Workshop absolutely do. So, all of this is to say, it's not that we're going to not have games because you can just make Candy Crush instead, because, so many people try to do a Candy Crush and fail. It's an extremely hard market to break into because of the just the amount of like user acquisition spend that these companies can actually do, because they're so entrenched. A new games company is going to really struggle to fight against all the data science and just all the stuff that the likes of King will actually know. But I think what it does mean is that the superpowers of the King games and how they're able to just make money happen, those things, they're going to try to apply those to things that will appeal to us, but maybe be a little bit broader. And I think that's just essentially what's going to happen with the likes of your Warcraft Arclight Rumble. I cannot imagine they think that that's going to perform near Clash Royale, as an example. Of course, Blizzard knows that it's not going to perform like that. I think what they want to do is something that is a little bit like that. We'll get some of us over into playing that sort of game, and will make sense versus how much it costs to build.
Yeah, I should have made it clear that I don't expect Warcraft Arclight Rumble to be really very Predator or anything, because it's very much Warcraft. It's clearly like a Western kind of focused version of those, at least in how it's marketed to us and how it was delivered and stuff. It's clearly a product that's not going to be just evil in mobile game form, but it will be trying to go for the more casual, the more light kind of side of, clearly you can see all the King DNA in there. And it's funny you say about data science, because the one thing we kind of went over a little bit was, they mentioned at the start of buying Peltarian. And Peltarian are this data science firm, this AI firm, this neural net deep learning firm. And King bought them. It wasn't Activision Blizzard King, it was King specifically brought them under their wing. And that stuff will all be available to Blizzard. It'll be available to Activision. And that is them going, here's the people who have basically taught Tesla, General Electric, NASA, how to actually use like deep learning models in their day-to-day business. They've built their own platform, and now King will be able to use that. So that's the kind of thing where Blizzard with Arclight Rumble, with Diablo Immortal having access to that. But then you talked also about the user acquisition spend. And that's when, obviously for anyone unfamiliar, that's when you spend loads of money on marketing. You make sure you're always at the top of the Apple Store, the Play Store. You're always on top of any sort of advertising platform, whatever. And then your game's good enough, people get hooked, etc., etc. But Blizzard already spent all that money acquiring users in the past by making good games. So they don't need to use user acquisition spend, or you don't have to spend loads of money where you can go, it's Warcraft on your phone, go play. Or it's Diablo on your phone, go play. And all that stuff clearly actually is their goal. Like, I'm trying to work my way up of what have they done, can I work back and figure out what their plan is? And it very much seems that if they have a plan and aren't just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks, their plan will be, how can we be the 10% more core gamer version of King?
And I guess what's interesting there is the failures that they've had.
Yeah.
Because the Pokemon Go-like Warcraft mobile game was cancelled. We just recently in the headlines heard about a World of Warcraft MMORPG being developed by NetEase. That also was cancelled. So, like, that's 2 major mobile projects dead. We also heard when they, at the same time that they moved resources over to Overwatch 2 and D4, when they cancelled the StarCraft shooter game, I think also it was 1 or 2 mobile games died with that. So it's like internally, they have been trying to get these mobile games out. And it's quite interesting that the only one that came from Blizzard is the Warcraft-ish sort of PvE Clash Royale game. It's quite bizarre.
Basically the one that's already been proven as a market kind of prospect and idea. Obviously with its own twist, it's not just that game copy-pasted. But you could certainly imagine the internal stuff of they're working on Warcraft Go, which I'm just going to call it that, and they go, wait, even Niantic, who made Pokemon Go, can't recapture that. Why are we trying?
Yeah.
That's Pokemon Go is a proven concept. The other ones proved it isn't a guarantee. So, in the bin.
And that's why you can't Ubisoft this stuff. We can't just have, in the same way that they make a Tom Clancy entry in a gameplay franchise, you can't just do that with Warcraft.
Tom Clancy's Clash Royale.
Who knows? Tom Clancy's Ghost Go. Join your fellow ghosts as you engage in tactical espionage operations in the real world. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw that. Now, to finish things off, then there's a funny story coming out of Immortal where basically your man who spent $100,000 on the game, right? Like Asmongold reacted to him. He was just like in there in the sort of game, the content scene, and he actually made his character so powerful that his matchmaking record was so good he literally could not find a match. And then this actually forced Blizzard to drop a matchmaking fix so that the highest spending players could actually play against each other. Now, I don't know, was that caused by a bug, or is it just simply that Blizzard needs to widen what is acceptable for matchmaking? Of course, if they widen what's acceptable, then the people who have spent the highest within that bracket will, of course, have that weird competitive advantage. So, funny little situation. I had been told that the PvP whaling side is something that is very designed for the Chinese market, so perhaps perhaps we will see numbers really start to fly up once once those players are just getting more leveled up in the game.
Yeah, I think I've talked about that before, but that's like pretty much a culturally acceptable thing over there, whereas we have like notions of keeping money out of the arena. They're just like, well, money's a part of who I am, so it's not just keep the money aside, it's pure skills. No, the money I have is part of the skill that I have as a human, so it counts. Something to that effect. So yeah, that's exactly why we generally don't like it, but they don't mind, so absolutely big money. I mean, I'll say we don't like it. Clearly some people don't mind. It's definitely more of a personal thing, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. So as things go on then, it's just looking to the merger and to beyond. Now, the merger's been interesting. There's been obviously degrees of scrutiny about, anti-competitiveness in the market. The idea that if, Microsoft just gobble up all the companies, that then there could be a sort of a worrying monopolistic situation. This is something we talked about ages ago when the merger was first announced. But what's then quite funny is that Sony, they're in a position where they have to say, Call of Duty is massive in the industry, this is a problem. Whereas Microsoft have basically got to say, it's not monopolistic, don't worry, they're not that important. So Microsoft have said this about the company they're acquiring. With respect to Activision Blizzard video games, there is nothing unique about the video games developed and published by Activision Blizzard that is a must-have for rival PC and console game distributors that could give rise to foreclosure concern. And I suppose the idea there is that when you take the plain text reading of that and you're like, oh yeah, World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, nothing unique about those. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I love how it's clearly just, no, there's nothing new, nothing unique with this. And the opponent's going, Call of Duty is literally, you cannot replace it, you cannot replicate it. It is an entire category unto itself of video game. And the people legislating and trying to figure it out must be looking going, fuck's sake. The truth's in the middle. But where? Where in the middle is the truth? You're not making this very easy for us, you bastards.
I mean, there's multiple competitors to Call of Duty, like Crossfire X. So
I love Control, but what the hell were Remedy doing?
there's definitely a story behind that.
Sure is.
So basically, that's that. There are still hurdles for them to jump through. They basically just have to, demonstrate. Well, another thing too, they've been demonstrating that they haven't said, "Oh, we're taking Call of Duty away from Sony."
Yeah.
Right? They obviously could, and that's still very relevant, but that they have not immediately acted like that will probably help, though, maybe they're just not doing that because they know they wouldn't get away with it. Who particularly knows? Anyway, the overall situation for that merger does look decently hopeful in the US, right? So once they've got all the information in, there is basically a 30-day window for the Federal Trade Commission to either allow the deal or raise an objection, and Activision Blizzard say that they are optimistic that it will be done before the end of this current fiscal year. Now, Microsoft's fiscal year ends June 30th, 2023. So there you go. Overall then, what are we going to see? Well, we're going to see numbers broadly go up with Blizzard Entertainment. Diablo Immortal will just continue to bolster that, I think, as it goes on in the Chinese market. Of course, in Q3 of this year, we've got Wrath Classic. That's going to be really good for the Warcraft product. Supposedly, Q4 will bring a new World of Warcraft expansion. Right now, actually, with Diablo 4, which we believe will be Q2 in next year, there's screenshots that are leaked from a friends and family alpha that are floating around the place. So someone's probably going to get in trouble over that, but it does show that there is that tangible evidence of that game, and of course, Overwatch 2. So, at least by the numbers, the word had always been for Blizzard that the good times are just coming around the corner. I think, actually, we're finally about to come around the corner. And it's just going to be quarter after quarter of releases. The question will be, how will the numbers respond to that? Overall, I would say Diablo 4 looks pretty damn good. We obviously have to see if they do anything to capsize it. Overwatch 2, I could be interested in that. Fair enough. I really enjoyed the first one on launch, so we'll have to see. Dragonflight, initially it's been mostly pretty damn good news, surprisingly to many of us, but that said, I think it will take 2 good expansions in a row to undo the damage, personally.
I think that's the case with Overwatch 2, where it's like Dragonflight and Overwatch both have so little interest comparatively that it's kind of crazy. You're like, oh, maybe they actually have shot themselves in the foot. So I think Overwatch 2 will need a super strong shortening to the PvE, and Dragonflight will need super fast patches, loads of content, and completely. They need to reverse the narrative, and that's going to take time.
Yep. Thankfully, though, they have said, the game director has said, more frequent content patches. And I suppose the hope is that with that overall 25% increase in headcount, the Warcraft team grew by 100 with the acquisition of Proletariat, in addition to them just hiring up for that team like crazy anyway. So, look, who knows? What I can tell you for absolutely sure is that the next year of Activision Blizzard is going to be very damn interesting to follow from a business perspective. So ultimately, that's you up to date. That's it from us today. Check out Brilliant down below. They, quite simply are brilliant. Great supporter of the channel, and truly it is a product that I stand behind and use. So check them out. Thanks to them for making this episode possible and supporting what we do. Thanks to you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.